Hi guys, welcome back to the Mina Does Art Stuff YouTube channel. My name is Mina and on this channel we do art stuff. Today we are continuing with the colour comparison series, and today we're going to be taking a look at the pigment PR206, known by a few different names. Namely, I think the main one is Quin Burnt Scarlet. I think that's the main name for the pigment. But the pigment number is PR206, and this is one of the recently discontinued pigments. I believe you can still buy the pigment in different tubes and stuff. Manufacturers still have it in stock, but the pigment production is being discontinued, therefore it will not be available indefinitely anymore. So if there is a version of this pigment that you like, I would suggest you stock up or get a tube at least so you have it on hand. So we're going to be looking at 6 different versions of this pigment. This is all that I have in my current stash. I'm pretty sure Schminke also have a version of this pigment, or they have a paint called Brown Madder. I can't remember if it's the exact same pigment as this or not. And I think some other brands may have this pigment as well, but they may have them under different names. So you just want to make sure you're looking out for that PR206 pigment. Also, I know Winsor & Newton use this pigment not only for Brown Madder, for their permanent alizarin crimson, as well as PR206 from Winsor & Newton. So that's something else to bear in mind, because that one's also going to change in the future as well. Okay, so first up we're going to look at Jackson's Permanent Alizarin Crimson Deep. This is the exact same name and pigment and everything as the Sennelier version. It's also called Permanent Alizarin Crimson Deep. There is a long-running theory that Jackson's paints are made by Sennelier. It's not been confirmed by anyone, but that is a theory that's out there that people believe, and I kind of agree. Just my experience with the Jackson's paints compared to Sennelier paints has led me to believe that they are probably made by the same company. But the Jackson's paint, I don't actually have that one in a palette at the moment, so I'm just going to squeeze out a little bit onto the paper here, and we'll swatch this one fresh. Actually, I'll leave it open in case I need a bit more. So this is a really nice sort of earthy, rusty, reddish pigment. Has a really nice sort of soft undertone when it's washed out. Would be nice in portraits or in landscapes, even in florals. It's a nice mixer as well. A little bit more pigment in there. Okay, so that's the Jackson's, and then the Sennelier is up here in the corner. Ooh. So one thing with the Sennelier paints is they do stay tacky to the touch. I just stuck my finger in the orange. Right. Then next up we have the Winsor & Newton Brown Madder, which actually I have here on the flap. Interesting, the Winsor & Newton version is a bit more sort of orange leaning than the Jackson's and Sennelier. Those are darker, a bit more brown, and this one is definitely a bit more of a reddish orange, brighter tone to it. Next up we have Daniel Smith Quin Burnt Scarlet. There we go. This one's similar to the Winsor & Newton one, which is a bit brighter and more saturated than the Sennelier and Jackson's. Next up we have the Roman Schmall Quinacridone Madder. I actually really like this one. I actually have a spare pan of this one as well in my stash because I really like this version of it. It's a really soft colour and I really like it. It's different to the other versions. I don't know how else to describe it other than soft. It just has a softness to it. I really cannot think of a better word. It might not be the right one to use, but it's the only one that I can think of. It's kind of somewhere in between the others. Oh, sorry, you're off screen. I'm so sorry about that. Alright, so that was the Daniel Smith Quinacridone Burnt Scarlet and the Roman Schmall Quinacridone Madder. I just feel like this is a softer version of the Winsor & Newton and Daniel Smith ones, but still a bit brighter than the Jacksons and Sennelier. And finally, the final one I have to look at here is the one by Core. And they call theirs Quinacridone Burnt Orange, which is very confusing because Quinacridone Burnt Orange in most other brands is PR206. But Core calls their PR206 Quinacridone Burnt Orange. So this is why understanding pigments and things like that can be quite useful. Because if you bought this expecting it to look like PR206, you'd be very disappointed. Because it's not. Okay, so that's those 6 swatched out now. We're going to wait for that one to dry and I will be back once it is. Okay, our swatches are now dry, so I'm just going to take the tape off and we'll take a closer look at these and see what we think. It's interesting, now that they've dried, they look a lot closer colour-wise than they did when they were wet. When they were wet, the Winsor & Newton Daniel Smith one looks so much brighter and more saturated than the Sennelier and Jackson's. But now that they're dry, they look a lot more similar. They almost all look exactly the same, other than the Roman Schmall one, which is interesting. This one still has that softness to it, which I quite like. I quite like the Core as well, it's really nice, as is the Daniel Smith. I actually like all of them fairly equally, to be honest. I'd be happy with any of these on my palette, so let me know which one is your favourite. Do you have a favourite? I feel like these two are pretty much identical. There's a little difference in the wash, but that could just be how I washed it out with on the swatching. It's probably less to do with the colours, and the rest look fairly similar. I don't know which is my favourite. Let me know, which one do you think is yours? I actually really like all of these. I can't really decide, which is not helpful. But yeah, that's it for this video. Thank you for joining me. I'll see you in the next one. Take care. Bye.